I believe cannabis is magically organic in its ability to calm the brain, calm the nervous system, regulate their bodies. Right. And there's other therapies that have to still be utilized, which is basically sensory integration would be the main one I would say. Once we can help these individuals regulate through cannabis, their language will just emerge. They don't need speech therapy. It's not that they can't speak, it's their nervous system is shutting their capacity to speak.
Welcome to Season 6 of the Cannabis Truth Podcast, where we speak the language of cannabis freely and uncensored while educating our audience on safe use of this live plant therapy. You should know what's in your cannabis, what's good and what's not, because cannabis does not come with an FDA stamp of approval, yet. The information you will find here comes straight from scientists and clinicians doing the work and reporting their findings in reputable outlets. Hopefully, we can inspire you to research the facts as we know them today. Cannabis is an amazing alternative in health remedies, with the potential to alleviate typical disease problems and troubling side effects, even those caused by synthetic prescriptions. Here now is the host of the Cannabis Truth Podcast. She is a 21st century cannabis shaman, not a doctor, not a scientist. Raised by nuns and wolves in the verdant cattle pastures of the Oklahoma oil fields, here to amplify the truth of this great big story of cannabis in historical, political, scientific, and spiritual terms, so you can make educated decisions about the medicine you choose to ingest. Please welcome Honey Smith-Walls.
Okay, welcome Michelle Babitz. Welcome back to the Cannabis Truth Podcast. I can't tell you how excited I am to meet you. I can't tell you how excited I am for our audience to learn what you are doing. This is the most generous idea for stay-at-home moms and dads of children with autism I have ever heard. It is so hopeful. Please, darling, introduce yourself and tell us about this big scheme going on in your head.
Okay, so am I going to start with sort of an overview of the Soul of Autism Mastermind, or go right into where I believe cannabis fits into all of this?
Oh my gosh. Let's do the latter first and the first ladder. Okay. Let's do the cannabis thing first. I want to hear that. Okay. How does all of this fit into cannabis? All of this autism thing that's happening in the background, all of your history, which they heard in last week's show, and what you're doing now to facilitate help for those parents and caregivers. So how does cannabis fit into autism and caregiving and all of that? Tell us.
So on the last week, I talked about my Soul of Autism Mastermind, mission for parents and caretakers of autism.
Right.
And one of the things that I often recommend is they consider CBD and even THC. And I haven't done any research on mushrooms. I don't really know too much about that, but I've seen some stuff on that. But just from either CBD or THC, absolutely, every parent that I have spoken to that has used CBD or THC have reported positive results. Everyone. Or maybe not any results. There might be some that didn't feel it helped, but in that case, I think it's because they lack a relationship with somebody like you, honey, or, other people that are in the medical field or the educational field on cannabis, and they just simply need somebody that understands the science behind it.
Little fundamentals.
Exactly. I don't understand the science. That's where you come in. Last week, you started off by talking about the thing that the doctors just found out.
Yes, that's our endocannabinoid system of receptors, our ECS, that runs completely throughout our body, our skin, and our blood, and everything, and all other systems. So that's fundamental to understanding why cannabis works in us. We have this receptor system, but go watch that show, everybody. Okay. Yeah.
And I want a link to watch it myself.
You'll get it.
So I'm actually going to use the word magic.
Yeah.
It's not magic because it's truly just organic.
It's
Organic,
organic magic.
magically organic.
Yes. Yes. I absolutely agree with you.
So when you look at autism, the again, I'm speaking from my personal experience and as an educator. Please course correct me if I'm misstating anything medically, or anything like that. So when I last week talked about how autism, I mentioned that I worked with the most violent kids on the planet, and I loved it. Okay,
What a call.
their and I mentioned that their aggressive behavior, their disruptive behavior, is simply their language. That's all it is. They don't intend to hurt people. They don't want to destroy property. They feel remorse when they can express themselves in some way, whether it's verbally or non-verbally, in writing, or let's say by typing it. Almost always have remorse
Oh,
because they understand what they're doing, but they can't control their own bodies. Why not? Two main reasons that I understand so far. One is their neurological systems, all five senses, are imbalanced. There's a book that was written back in the 1970s or 60s called The Ultimate Stranger by Carl Delicato. You can only find it I mean, it's not even published. You have to find it online somewhere that somebody's selling their used copy.
yeah.
That was my Bible. And that I think should be your Bible in understanding even more how cannabis plays specifically to what he's describing the impact of the neurological system on autistic behavior. So when you have a nervous system, a neurological system that's imbalanced, so what does that mean? That means, why do kids hold their ears like this? Because their auditory system is an overload or underload. Why are they punching walls? Why are they attacking people physically? Because their neurological system, imagine you have an itch on your back
Yeah.
and you can't reach it.
Yep.
And it's causing you to be distracted from everything. I mean, you could have a car head on coming to hit you, but that itch is distracting you so bad.
Yep.
Imagine that itch inside your nervous system that they can never scratch.
Ugh.
That's why they are so aggressive, because their internal neurological system has an itch that they're simply trying to scratch. That's one of my analogies that I use. So cannabis, I don't know the science, but I know in my gut, it's not pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are going to mess up their system. Based on what you're telling me and what I've learned from other medical educators in cannabis, is you have a way to help regulate an individual's nervous system through the Mother Earth of cannabis. What about the brain? The brain, what do they say? We only know what percent of the brain, right? Like a little bit.
Right.
I believe our people on the spectrum are able to access parts of the brain that neurotypical people cannot. Okay? And because of that, that again affects the nervous system. Because I believe, and I've experienced, a much higher intelligence, even in the most severe of autism. They're very highly intelligent people because they're accessing parts of the brain that we don't even understand yet. And that affects their nervous system. And again, I believe cannabis is magically organic in its ability to calm the brain, calm the nervous system, regulate their bodies. And right, and there's other therapies that have to still be utilized, which is basically sensory integration would be the main one I would say. Because I think that once we can help these individuals regulate through cannabis, their language will just emerge. They don't need speech therapy. It's not that they can't speak, it's their nervous system is shutting their capacity to speak.
Hi, Honey Smith Walls here. I'm host of the Cannabis Truth podcast, weekly for the past 6 years. But today I'm inviting you to a Facebook group called the Holistic Relief Summit, in hopes that you too will come for the peace and stay for the epiphanies. It's a beautiful space for women to find all kinds of relief from all kinds of suffering. Come join us for free.
Well, hello, I'm Dr. Philip Blair, and I want to introduce you to Honey Smith Walls. And she recently had an experience with beta-caryophyllene.
For years, I've been dealing with lots of arthritis pain and pain from neuropathy that has not been resolved through other prescriptive methods. As an advocate educator in the cannabis industry, I learn lots of interesting information about the compounds within the plants, and one of those turned out to be beta-caryophyllene.
What was your first dose like?
I was gobsmacked. Absolutely gobsmacked. It has given me my future back.
I want to get it out to everybody too. I want to get it out to the whole world, as a matter of fact. It has so many mitigating factors for all the stresses of life and pain and diseases. It is unbelievable, the spectrum of care that it can provide.
I'll end with this. I'll tell you a story about that. One of the students I worked with in Massachusetts, he was a sweet kid, not a behavior problem at all, but he never spoke. But he would sit there and look at you like this. It's as if like he totally understood everything we were saying.
His body language told you that.
Yes.
Yes.
So I worked in the transition program where we got all of our students jobs, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
And so when Rob and my partner was in seminary, we got them to contract with our school. Her school contracted with our school to let our students work in their kitchen. So this kid, Jesse, got the job as a dishwasher. So for like maybe 2.5, 3 hours a day, he'd be lifting really heavy, dish trays, dishes, cups, silverware. And we're talking heavy ceramic. Within less than 2 months of him working there, he started speaking full language because his neurological system was locked. But that it's called proprioceptive input, that heavy lifting consistently over time helped regulate his nervous system so that his speech could evolve.
Wow.
Right. So, there are many, many ways in which to help these kids, but I believe the key is moving away from medical intervention and moving into more natural intervention, therapeutic and cannabis. And in last session, I mentioned how scary it is for a lot of these families right now because they're fearful of losing their Medicaid and their Medicare.
Oh my gosh.
Department of Education. And I don't want to simplify the disaster that these families are potentially going to face. But I want to relate back to when I started in the 1970s. Back then, so if I started in the 1970s, up until about the 1940s and 50s, if you gave birth to a disabled child, you were told, put them in an institution, forget that they ever existed.
Yes.
So at some point, some parents said no. The very first schools for autism were started by parents.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I don't want to simplify the disaster that we might be facing, but I also want to say, again, from every adversity is the seed of potential opportunity. Schools are failing our kids.
Yes.
All they're doing is babysitting to get the money from the government. And again, I'm a progressive Democrat. Okay. So just, I don't want to sound okay, but I understand certain mindsets that might not align with a progressive Democrat. So the educational system is basically babysitting, and it's terrible. So what can we do? If with the Soul of Autism Mastermind, I'm thinking back to when I started at a little school that was started by parents. And that's where I got my very first training. That's where I got the right mindset. That's where I learned what a functional education is for these kids. Same,
yes.
Right? So, one of the things that I'm just going to state it is that maybe what we need is to create through this mastermind a movement, my Soul of Autism Mastermind, a movement to empower parents and give them their power back.
With functional education. I just wrote that down. It's such a beautiful term, and one that we really need to start utilizing more and more in our own educational system. They're not taught functional education.
They're not anymore.
No,
not anymore. I was blessed to work in environments, even in the public school. I worked in the transition program. I mean, there are options out there, and this is gonna be horrible and it's gonna be scary. But I want the Soul of Autism Mastermind to be a lifelink for these families, so that we can look at how can we make this work better for you and your kids, and through people like you that have better answers than medicine. If they lose their Medicaid, then they lose their medications. Well, maybe that will create a greater consciousness for cannabis.
We also have in this cannabis community that is built upon love, that is the backbone of the cannabis community, not the industry. The community is built on love. It's built by parents who have autistic kids. It's built by kids who watch their parents die painfully with cancers.
Yeah.
It's built to help the AIDS victims in the 70s. It's built to help the migration of mothers whose babies were seizing 300 times a day, move from all throughout the country to Colorado when the Stanley brothers first realized their hemp product could help save those children.
Absolutely.
Our society has forgotten that our nation was built on the backbone of cannabis.
That's right.
They never would have gotten to this country without hemp, because you can't shove a boat across an ocean without rope and sails, both made from hemp. Cannabis, hemp and marijuana, same plant. Hemp and cannabis. Cannabis is also male and female. Marijuana is the female, the male is the hemp. There's so much to learn, and the science is so exciting. And once these parents learn just a little bit of fundamental knowledge, man, their lives are going to change.
Yeah.
So fast. Not only their personal attitudes and how they feel inside, but their children that they're caregiving for. May I introduce you to, and you may already know her, but Dr. Bonnie Goldstein. Have you heard of her?
I think so.
Her specialty is autism.
Really?
The cannabis doctor.
Really?
And yes, and you're going to love her. She is divine. Bonnie, Bonni Goldstein, and she knows Elizabeth and Sherry Mack. And Sherry was on my show. Sherry Mack was on my show not too
she was. Okay.
ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, y'all can go back and listen to that episode.
Can you put your link into the chat or email it to me after this?
I will, darling. I will. I'm all fumble fingers. It would take me 10 minutes to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Just email me your link because I'd like to start following you.
I will.
And then I'd love for you, once my Soul of Autism Mastermind is launched, I'd love for you to be one of my guest speakers. And by the way, just so that everybody knows, I'm offering, because April is Autism Awareness Month, I am offering free membership. I'm offering for people to come, free membership for at least until the end of April, to get to know me, to get to know the mission, so that I can start to build a base of parent ambassadors.
This network, it's so important. It is so important. It is so important. I can't wait for you to tell the audience at the Holistic Relief Summit. And I've got a whole bunch of notes written down here that I want to, can I just say that it blows me away? In the first show, you were talking about coming from, Massachusetts and New Jersey areas, and then going to California, and all these different philosophies, and changing from how managing the different societal philosophies that you went through with all of this. At one point, you were describing how Big Pharma is just using autistic kids as guinea pigs. Didn't it?
No, that's a gut. That's not a fact, but that's my gut.
Well,
that's my experience. That's what I felt.
Okay. Yes. And in my experience, I trust that statement as well, that opinion as well. Thank you very much. But didn't it feel just like the Tuskegee Airmen situation? Just, treating humans like lab rats.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want you to check into Bonnie Goldstein. And by the way, my audience, you don't know this, but my audience already knows I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor. I'm just an individual who has done total immersion into cannabis and flung myself at the mercy of the medical leaders in cannabis science to learn anything I could from them without having to go back to university, because I couldn't stand all that other, everything else that goes along with that. I just needed the real deal, and the science is so new, they were glad to have anybody to listen to them.
Yeah.
So now, I've been in those circles. Here's another good tip for you. Dr. Dustin Sulak, Sulak. He is in Maine. He's had a practice for 25 years. He's still making babies with his precious darling. And he is a leading scientist who has patients in autism. And he can help and guide you. And he also has a monthly seminar that is free to everybody who attends it. And it's fascinating because he'll give us the latest and then he opens it up for Q&A. And girls like you and me can just go up there and say, hey, have you heard that blah, blah, blah? And he'll say, yes, I have heard some science on that, or not. And he'll ask you to send him the science on it. So it's really fascinating, and he is a leader in the scientific community as well as greatly beloved by all who meet him. He's just like, he's Adonis in cannabis. He's amazing. So Dustin Sulak, and everybody else, go to healer.com. Healer.com. That's where you'll find his products in hemp that he can ship to all 50 states. And he is just an amazing human angel on this planet, really. And one of my 3 trusted sources for purchasing products across the nation. So, and trustedcananurse.com is the other one. I'm sure you'll know Megan Bang soon if you don't already and haven't already, seen her. She's just amazing. And her products too are absolutely thought-provoking. She's come up with a product for women, like a vaginal suppository for women for IBS and menstrual cramps and all of that, but she calls them shooter cooters because they're fabulous for after hot banging sex.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
She's thinking of that most tender area in a woman that there's never any relief for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In a sacred act of love. And, I think it's precious. And because we have endocannabinoid receptors in every single part of our body, that cannabis works so fast to relieve the inflammation that is caused. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's cool to me that there's, women leaders in cannabis science who are thinking of us internally with love. Yeah. I like it.
I love it.
So, anyway, we've got still 1,000 hours of gab to go. I know. But I know your time is sacred too, and you've probably got other appointments. So tell us, how can our audience get in touch with you, darling?
So I gave you my website.
Say it again.
Soul of Autism Mastermind.com. Let's see. It is michellebabitz.wix.com/soul of autism. Soul-of-autism.
We're going to fix that.
Okay.
We're going to fix that. Yep. And y'all DM me, text me, do whatever you have. Find me on Facebook and I will hook you up to this girl. And we are going to put some links in the chat so that you can be with her and find her in all her glory. She's also going to be on the Holistic Relief Summit. So go catch her on the Holistic Relief Summit. It's on Facebook, free group.
Okay. Also, you're welcome to share my phone number with anybody. My email or phone number with anybody.
Fabulous.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'll be doing that because I'm sure we're going to be collaborating on a bunch of things, and it's real important. This networking among women is a real priority for me. I didn't know that I could have this kind of beautiful, loving support in business, and it's just been thrilling, really. So I'm so delighted to find you, honey. And
sure.
No kidding. And I'll see you on the other side.
Yes. And then you'll let me know when you want me to speak at your summit.
Yes. I'll send you a link to register for that. Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes. All right. Take care. Love you.
Thank you so much.
This was wonderful.
Thank you for this amazing opportunity.
You're so welcome, honey. Bye now.
You've been listening to another Cannabis Truth podcast with 21st century cannabis shaman Honey Smith Walls. Using cannabis mindfully as medication is a different concept in Western healthcare philosophy, specifically over the past century. There's a lot to learn and reconsider. The scientific truth of cannabis is finally getting out and is wide open for all to see at respected medical sites like the National Library of Medicine at pubmed.gov and the Journal of American Medical Association at JAMAnetwork.com. We here at the Cannabis Truth Podcast are right there in the thick of it, alongside the titans of medicine, as a fly on the wall. We are not doctors, nor did we go to medical school, but we have taken dozens of private cannabis courses and still engage in continuing education offered by expert cannabis scientists. Over the past few years, we slowly began to see and understand the bigger picture. Now we hear from people all day long about cannabis. It is so important to use verifiably safe products. The process of getting a diagnosis from your family doctor and taking your records to a cannabis specialist can lead you to the correct cannabinoid therapy for your specific issues. Otherwise, you're simply your own guinea pig looking for answers without the foundational knowledge or ability to determine your best strategy. To find a qualified cannabis expert in your area, visit cannabisclinicians.org. This is a national society of cannabis experts. Look for the link in the show notes. Unless otherwise proven by a reputable third-party lab test, please regard all street weed as contaminated. It may do grave harm to a patient with a delicate immune system who already has inflammatory issues like arthritis, IBS, fibromyalgia, or worse. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you find value and understanding through the conversations you've heard on this podcast.